Good morning, students. So we will discuss today chapter 2 of grade 10th political science federalism. Now we have to discuss from page 19, and on page 19 the topic which we have to discuss is how is federalism practiced. So students, till now we have seen that constitutional provisions are necessary for the success of federalism. But these are not sufficient. The federal structure is granted through constitution. That is, it is through constitution only that powers of union government and state government are demarcated, so that no conflict arises between union government and state government. So federalism can be implemented by providing constitutional provisions, but the success of federalism depends upon the nature of democratic politics. That is, how the government of these countries handle their diversity, and if any challenge come in the way of federalism, how they handle them, what kind of majority the leaders of the country show, what kind of relation is between the union government and the state government. So in case of India, only by incorporating provisions in the constitution will not make us a federal country. So if we want to make our structure a federal structure in real sense, then we have to make certain changes in our country's policies. So then only we will be able to become successful federal country. Now we have to see what changes our country have made in order to make our structure a federal structure. So let's see, first one which we have to discuss is linguistic states. Now under linguistic states, students, the creation of linguistic states was the first and the major test for the democratic politics in our country. If we see in 1947, the scenario was different. Our states evolved over a period of time. So if you compare the political map of India when it began its journey as a democracy in 1947 and that of 2020, you will be surprised by the extent of the changes. Many old states have been vanished and many new states have been created. Areas, boundaries, names of the states have been changed. So in 1947, the boundaries of several old states of India were changed in order to create new states. So this step was taken so that people who spoke the same language lived in the same state. So some states were created on the basis of language also. So in 1956, States Reorganization Commission was set up to form compact provinces of Assamese, Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada and Telugu speakers respectively. Then states were created to recognize differences based on culture, ethnicity or geography also. So on this basis also the states were created. States were not created only on the basis of language, but on these basis also some states were created. These include states like Nagaland, where Naga tribe is living, Uttarakhand, to maintain their Pahadi identity, Jharkhand, again a tribal area. So Jharkhand was always different in terms of geography, history and culture and language. So we have talked here about the linguistic states. Now page 20, students. Now when the demand for the formation of states on the basis of language was raised, some national leaders feared that it would lead to disintegration of our country. And both our ex-Prime Minister Pandit Nehru and Deputy Prime Minister Vallabhbhai Patel, they were against the creation of these linguistic states. But the experience has shown us, students, that the formation of linguistic states has actually made country more united. It has also made administration more easier and more flexible. So it is easy to work in your native language, in the language of your local place. It is very easy to work, to carry out all the official work. Now the topic, so this was linguistic states, students. We have discussed that on the basis of, means if the linguistic states were not created, then the conflict might arise. The people, they were demanding the creation of on the basis of language, and if this would not have been accepted by the center, then again the protest might have started, and it would not be good for the integration of our country. So we have to, in a democratic setup, if we are adopting the features of the federalism, we have to go with the will of the people. This is the very spirit of a democracy. Okay, now this next thing which we have to discuss is language policy now. Now the second test for the Indian Union is the language policy, and our constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. Hindi was identified as the official language. So Hindi is our official language, means all the administrative departments, all the work is done in Hindi, and but Hindi is the mother tongue of 42% of Indians, and besides this Hindi, there are 21 other languages recognized as scheduled languages by our constitution. So we have official language of the central government, and state also have their official language, means in which the states, the residents, the natives of the state, they are comfortable in working with. And scheduled languages, I have told you 21 scheduled languages are there. The language included in the 8th schedule of our Indian constitution, like Gujarati, Bengali, Kannada, Kashmiri, Manipuri. Many languages are there which are there, means 21 languages are there which are scheduled languages. And we are multilingual nation, students, so government has adopted very sensitive approach towards such language issues, so it does not hurt the sentiments of other language groups. And a candidate appearing for the examination conducted for the central government position may opt to take examination in any of these languages. So with regard to language, our government adopted very liberal approach, very liberal policy. Similarly, states too have their own official language. I told you, much of the government and official work take place in the official language of the concerned state. So the union government keep this in mind, that they have to accommodate states to their fullest level, and hence they adopted very liberal flexible language policy to safeguard the interest of different languages and communities. So the cautious use of spreading Hindi was also taken into account. Unlike in Sri Lanka, the leaders of our country adopted a very cautious approach, very careful approach in spreading the use of Hindi. Like in Sri Lanka, what happened? You remember power sharing chapter? The Sinhala leaders, they recognized Sinhala as the only official language, thus disregarding the Tamils. So in Sri Lanka, Sinhala leaders did not adopted a very sensitive approach towards minority language, and this resulted in civil war. But but in our case, our leaders, they adopted very mature approach towards the language, different languages. And students, always there is a debate between English and Hindi. So language was also an important issue and point, and several members of the Constituent Assembly, they wanted to replace English language with the Hindi. So according to Constitution, the use of English for the official purposes was stopped in 1965. But again, the non-Hindi speakers, they have a different opinion, and many of the non-Hindi speaking states, they demanded that the use of English should continue because they are not comfortable with the Hindi. And in Tamil Nadu, this movement took a violent form. So the central government agreed to continue the use of English along with Hindi for official purposes. Therefore, a compromise was finally arrived at, and it was resolved that while Hindi would be the official language of India, English would be used in courts and the services and the communication between one state and the another. And many critics think that this solution favored the English speaking elite also. So the promotion of Hindi continues to be the official policy of Government of India, but this promotion does not mean that the central government can impose Hindi on the states where people speak a different language. So this flexible, sensitive and mature approach was adopted by our leaders, and this helped our country to avoid the kind of situation that Sri Lanka finds itself in. So now students, page 20, here we have to discuss center-state relations. Students, so now we are discussing the topic how is federalism practiced in India, and we have seen so far linguistic states, the creation of linguistic states. Then we have seen language policy, what kind of language policy our government have adopted, and now the center-state relation. Now here the lot of politics is seen in the center-state relations. Students, if we have to strengthen the federalism in practice, then we have to strengthen the center-state relations. Only by making provisions in the constitution about power sharing is not sufficient. In reality, we have to see how ruling party and the leaders follow these arrangements and practice federalism. Like, for a long time before 1990s, the same party ruled both at the center and in most of the states, like Congress. So after independence, mostly the Congress till 1990s ruled mostly at the center and in most of the states. And this means that the state government can't govern themselves independently or control its own affairs. So if some other rival party is at the center and state government is of different party, then it was very difficult in those times to for the state governments to manage their affairs independently, because the center, they used to interfere in the state matters and they used to dismiss the central government, which was mostly run by the Congress. They used to dismiss the state governments where the rival party has formed the state government. Suppose in the center the government is of the Congress. In Maharashtra, again the government is of Congress. In Tamil Nadu, again the government is of Congress. But in Punjab, some other rival party, they have formed the Congress, other government other than Congress. Then the problem will be created for that party by the center. So by imposing the president's rule, then they used to dismiss the state government. So this was happening before 1990. So when the ruling party at the state level was different, then the party that ruled at the center, they tried to undermine, they tried to weaken the power of the state government. And in those days, the central government, they would often misuse the constitution. So I told you that according to the constitutional provisions, they used to impose the president rule, and then they used to dismiss the state governments which were controlled by the rival party. So this all undermined the spirit of the federalism, and this is against the federal structure. But all this situation changed after 1990. So more strict regulations came, and this period saw the rise of regional level political parties in many states of the country. And this was also the beginning of the era of coalition government at the center. When no party got a clear and absolute majority in the Lok Sabha, then the major national parties, they had to enter into the coalition with many parties, including several regional parties, to form a government at the center. So when government is formed by the coalition, then power is also shared with the regional parties. So this led to a new culture of power sharing and respect for the autonomy, that is right of the self-government of the state governments. Means they can now independently, they can run their state government. So new culture of power sharing started, and in which the respect was given to the state government that you can independently handle your affairs, and the central government will not interfere in your affairs to that extent, which was happening before 1990. So now page 21, students. So due to this, the trend also changed. Now coalition era, we are discussing that after 1990, mostly the governments which were formed, they were of coalition. But again, one problem is of coalition, that instability we have seen in some years when the no party is having absolute majority, and then the government has to be formed. So in this kind of government, we have seen instability, like we have 13 days Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Then for 13 months also he was the Prime Minister, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So in this we have seen in these 1996 and the years of 1990, a lot of instability was seen in the political arena of India. Now due to this, the trend also changed, and it made difficult for the central government to dismiss the state government in any manner, in arbitrary manner, without any logic, without any reason. They used to dismiss the state government. So the strict regulations came from the Supreme Court, and it was difficult then for the central government to dismiss the state governments, because now the regional parties, they were also helping in the coalition. So it was very difficult for the central government to dismiss the state governments. So the federal power sharing is more effective today than it was in the early years of the constitution when it came into force. So this is due to the coalition government which are being formed now. Moving to page 24, here the topic which we have to discuss is decentralization. Till now we noted that the federal structure have two or more tiers of government. We have so far discussed the two tiers of government in our country, that is central and the state level. But a vast country like India cannot be run only through these two tiers. Now states in India, they are as large as independent countries of Europe. Like in terms of population, our Uttar Pradesh is bigger than Russia, and Maharashtra is about as big as Germany. And moreover, many of the states are internally very diverse. So there is a need for power sharing within these states also at local level. So India needs another tier of government below that of the state government, and this is a rationale for decentralization of power. Thus resulted in a third tier of government called the local government. So the meaning of decentralization, when power is taken away from the central and the state government, it is called decentralization. So this power from the centralized source is diluted to the lower level. So what can be the objectives and aims for decentralization? Well, the basic idea behind the decentralization is that there are large number of problems, issues which are best settled at the local level, and people, they have better knowledge of the problems in their localities. The native officers of the area, they can better deal with the problems of the people. Local issues should be solved at the local level by the local leaders is the best solution. Then local people know more about their area, their needs, and central or the state government, they might not be aware of all these issues. So local people are more aware of their local needs and they can deal with them accordingly, and local people, they have better ideas on where to spend money and how to manage things more efficiently. And at local level, it is possible for the people to directly participate in decision making. So this helps to develop a habit of democratic participation. This was we were talking about why decentralization or the aim of decentralization. Now need for decentralization. So let's see, many attempts have been made to decentralize power to the level of villages and towns, and panchayats in villages, municipalities in urban areas were set up in all the states. But these were directly under the control of the state governments earlier, and moreover, elections to these local governments were not held regularly, and local government did not have any power resources of their own. So there was very little decentralization before 1992. So this I was talking about that what was the conditions before 1992 of the decentralization, means the conditions of decentralization before 1992. The panchayats and municipalities were directly controlled by the state government. Elections to the local bodies were not held properly. Local government lacked the power and the resources. They were not having any powers and resources. Then how to manage the work related responsibilities. Decentralization was not effective in power sharing at local level. So this we have talked that what were the conditions of the decentralization before 1992. Then I have talked about the rationale behind the decentralization, that India is a vast country with a lot of religious, linguistic and cultural and ethnic and geographical diversity. Power sharing was adopted to accommodate diversity and ease administration, but more power sharing at local level was required at that time, and it resulted in the adoption of third tier of local government. Now after this, a major step towards decentralization was taken in 1992 students. The constitution was amended to make third tier of democracy more powerful and effective. So now let's see how decentralization was strengthened, or the major steps taken towards decentralization in 1992. Means what was done, what steps were taken. Now it is constitutionally mandatory to hold regular elections to the local government bodies. both for the local and urban areas. So in 1992, by constitutional amendment, it was made that elections to the local government bodies should be regular, so that more consistency and more accountability should be there. So this was first, that mandatory elections will be conducted. Second, seats are reserved for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other backward classes. So seats are reserved in the elections and the government positions. So this will lead to more representation of these marginalized sections of our community at the local level. Third, then, at least 1/3 of all the positions are reserved for women. So in certain villages the sarpanch seat is reserved for women, and some relief for the women. In 1992, at least at the local level, we got some representation. Fourth, an independent state election commission has been created in each state to conduct panchayat and municipal elections. So the independent body is created at the state level to conduct free and fair elections, regular elections to the local bodies, so that more transparency can come to the elections, to the system. Fifth, then the state government are required to share some powers and revenue with local government bodies, and it is made mandatory for the state government that they should share power and revenue with the local government. And this nature of sharing varies from state to state. Okay, like in Kerala, more power is diluted to the local bodies. After this, now on the same page 24 only, students, now we have to discuss Panchayati Raj system in India, that is the rural local government versus urban local government. So the rural local government, it came into being through 73rd amendment, constitutional amendment, and urban local government bodies, they came through 74 constitutional amendment. So now we have to discuss their structure. Means on page 24 only, what is the structure? So now we have to discuss our structure. So on page 24 only, continuing now, first we have to discuss the rural local government Panchayati Raj system. So 73rd constitutional amendment. Now the basic unit of rural local government is village, and now we have to see the structure. And Gram Panchayat, you know, each village or a group of villages is having Gram Panchayat, and this Gram Panchayat is directly elected by the adult population of the village. So which is known as Gram Sabha, directly elected by adult population living in a village, which is Gram Sabha. So the electing body which elect Gram Panchayat is known as Gram Sabha. So Gram Panchayat is directly elected by adult population of the village, and the electing body which elect Gram Panchayat is Gram Sabha. So Gram Panchayat consists of a single village or a group of villages. So Gram Panchayat can be of a village, single village or group of villages. And the Gram Panchayat is elected by the Gram Sabha. So this we have done about Gram Panchayat and Gram Sabha. Now page 25, students, the same structure we are discussing of the rural local bodies. Now the Gram Panchayat is a decision making body for the entire village, and the Gram Panchayat works under the supervision of Gram Sabha, and all the voters in the village are members of Gram Sabha, and Gram Sabha meet at least twice or thrice only in a year to approve the annual budget of the Gram Panchayat and to review the performance of the Gram Panchayat. So after this we have to see, after Gram Panchayat at the basic level we have Gram Panchayat, then we have Panchayat Samitis or block samitis or the mandals. So the members of the Gram Panchayat, they are directly elected by the people, like Panch, Sarpanch, so they are directly elected. Now these Panch and Sarpanch will elect members of the Panchayat Samiti. So this is now indirect elections. Okay, and when some of the Gram Panchayats, they are clubbed together, then they will form the Panchayat Samiti or the block samiti or the mandals. So after this, now after Panchayat Samiti we have Jila Parishad. Okay, all the members of the Jila Parishad elected by the members of Panchayat Samiti, and all the Panchayat Samitis in the district together they form the Jila Parishad. So I hope the structure is clear. So this local government structure, it goes right up to the district level. So gram panchayat, few gram panchayats are grouped together to form what is called panchayat samiti. Now the members of the panchayat samiti are elected by all the panchayat members in that area. All the panchayat samitis or the mandals in the district together constitute Jila Parishad, and the members of Jila Parishad are elected by panchayat samiti or the block samiti, and the members of Lok Sabha MP, that is MLAs of that district, are also members of the Jila Parishad, and Jila Parishad chairperson is the political head of the Jila Parishad. So now let's see the urban local bodies now. So the big cities with the population of more than 1 million is known as municipal corporations in India, and the members of the municipal corporations are directly elected by the people and are called councillors. So municipal corporation, also called Nagar Palika or Nagar Nigam, and cities divided into certain wards, and the representative is chosen for each ward by the people in that ward, and the chosen representative of a particular ward is called councillor. Then head of the municipal corporation is mayor, and then the municipalities are set up in towns, and the municipal chairperson is the political head of the municipality. So this was the structure which we have at our local level, that is the rural level, and at the urban level. So now page 26 now. So let's see the achievements of this constitutional amendments which introduce the Panchayati Raj institutions in India, and what challenges still are there. So this new system of local government, that is rural and the urban local bodies, is the largest experiment in democracy conducted anywhere in the world, and the constitutional status given to the local government has helped to deepen democracy in our country even to the grassroots level. It has also increased women's representation and voice in our democracy. At least women got representation at grassroots level. So these are the achievements, but still miles to go, and we have challenges also in front of us. Means challenges like, while elections are held regularly due to the establishment of state election commission, but meetings of gram sabhas are not held regularly, and still most state governments, they have not transferred significant powers to the local government, nor the state government are giving them adequate revenue and resources. So still miles to go and long way before we realize the ideal of self government.